next, right here on TV 28.
Good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. Apologies for being, we ran a little bit late. We come out of a closed session, and normally we're out here by 7. We ran a little bit late, so my apologies for that. But good evening. This is the Board of Education of Livermore Valley Joint Unified School District. We're reconvening. It's 1908, and this is the August 21st regular meeting of the Board of Education. Please be advised that these board meetings are televised. They're on Channel 28 Wednesday evening and Saturday morning. So any of you captured audio or your visual image, cameras around the room will capture you on that. So if you're in the center aisle, you might be on TV. We're going to start this evening. There's an agenda on here, and I try to keep you updated right where we're at. We're in Section 3. So we're going to start with our flag salute, and we are honored and real fortunate to have District 57, the International Intermediate World Series team members and their coaches here tonight, and the children of our new administrators and our new student board members. And so they're going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So I think, is Philomena Rambo here? I think she was going to come up. Yeah, please come up. If you could get everyone organized, please.
We usually put the youngest, littler ones toward the front.
You to stand behind. Your football. You guys up front. Anybody else?
I think you should say.
Thank you so much.
All right, please join us for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, you know, so we're on Section 3, B as in Bravo, and these are closed section actions. So all actions approved in the closed session must be reported out in open session. And I'd ask Trustee Wenzel if there are any, if you could read out, please.
Thank you. In closed session, the Board of Education voted 5-0 to approve the request for pre-retirement part-time employment for certificated employee Carol Hovey.
Thank you, sir. Again, this is our regular meeting of the Board of Education for the Livermore Valley Joint Unified School District, where our primary focus is on the education of students within this public school district. So during the meeting, members of the public, you, will have the opportunity to share information, voice your opinions and concerns regarding matters within the jurisdiction of this public agency. So during our discussion of each agenda item, there'll be a time for you to have the opportunity to speak to that item. And if the topic you'd like to address is not on the agenda, it's not mandatory, but we would encourage you to please fill out a TAN speaker card. They're found in the lobby on the way in. We'll call you up in no particular order to speak, and that would be during communication from the public. If you'd like to speak on an item that is on our agenda, please fill out a blue card. And the same process, either of those cards, turn them into one of our IT folks over there, and they'll kind of make their way right around to us. Again, it's not mandatory to do so, but having your names and stuff keeps the meeting orderly, and I'll call you up in no particular order to speak to the board and to our public. We ask that you honor the 3-minute timeline. Our Deputy Superintendent, Mr. Van Schack, will activate a timer right in front of him. It'll say 3 minutes. And as it starts to tick down, if you're not aware of it, I'm not being rude, but I might remind you around 30 seconds or something, ma'am or sir, you have about 30 seconds to go. Again, the meetings are televised. They're on cable, Channel 28. I believe you have to have Comcast to see those. They're Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. and Saturdays at 9 a.m. I believe you can also watch them on the internet. Moving to Section 4, this is changes to the agenda, and I'd ask our superintendent, Dr. Kelly Bowers, if there's any changes, and if so, if you'd explain those.
Thank you, Mr. President. We actually do have two changes to the agenda to report. First of all, we received a piece of correspondence after the agenda was published, but prior to the 4 p.m. deadline the day before the meeting, per board policy, and our clerk will summarize and include it. Also, information discussion item 9.2, the 45-day budget revision 2018-2019. One of the formulas in the columns in the adopted revenue subtotal did not compute correctly, so the replacement document has been provided for your reference.
Thank you very much. And with that, we're moving to section 5. This is our recognitions, something we always look forward to. Reason some of you are here tonight. And I'd ask Dr. Bowers if you'd introduce our first.
So thank you. As we start off our new school year, we're starting off with two very special recognitions tonight. And so I will ask our Deputy Superintendent, Chris Van Schack, to recognize and honor the newest members or newly appointed members of our administrative team. And when they come up, we also wanted their youngsters to possibly come up with them. I think Tatum and Taylor and Sadie are here at least, if not others, because we didn't get a chance to shake their hands, but they can come up with their parents if they'd like to.
Thank you, Mr. Bowers. It is my absolute honor and privilege to introduce to you tonight our newest members of our administrative team and some folks who have changed positions this year. So I'm going to ask those folks to kind of come up front and center if you don't mind. I think you know who you are. So to the children, thank you for sharing your parents with us. We do appreciate the time that they spend with us. We know that sometimes that takes them away from their homes where they love being with their own children. So I'll start tonight with Kim McNeely. Kim is our bond program administrator. She was with us for a decade in the 90s, working on facilities and bond projects then. She left for about 10 years to our west, to Dublin, and we are thrilled to have her back with us working in our bond department. She brings a wealth of knowledge and a great understanding of the Livermore community. So welcome, Kim McNeely. Also with us in the first year is the new principal for Smith Elementary School, Mr. Joe Mounier. Joe spent the last 9 years as a teacher and administrator in Pleasanton, and although Joe lives in Livermore, he has worked to the west, and now he's happy to be home. So welcome, Joe Mounier. One of our new vice principals at Livermore High School is Brett Christopher. Brett is a graduate of Livermore High School. He was a scholar athlete there for all 4 years. He went off to college, entered the teaching profession, spent a few years in the Central Valley, then at East Avenue, and then to Livermore High School. And we're thrilled to have him as a member of our administrative team. Is a cowboy through and through, Brett Christopher. Also sort of a homecoming is Mr. Clark Conover. Clark, also a scholar athlete at Livermore High School. So there's a little theme going on this year. Was an all-state wrestler, and he has been with us for many, many years at Granada High School as the athletic director, and again, a native of Livermore. I wouldn't say he's a cowboy through and through because he's now a matador, but certainly thrilled to have Clark as our in our administrative team as a vice principal at Granada High School. So Clark Carnover. At Mendenhall Middle School, Vice Principal Ravi Prabhala. Ravi has been with us working with our tech team for the last 4 or 5 years, I suppose. Prior to that, he was a teacher at East Avenue, so he's 15 years into our district now, and we're thrilled to have him as one of the 2 administrators at Mendenhall Middle School. That's Ravi Prabhala. In new positions, but not new to us. First of all, Ms. Tammy Rankin. Tammy has been a principal at Jackson and then at Smith, and now she has increased her commute each day by 27 seconds. She is now at Mendenhall Middle School, where she is the principal there, and so she and Ravi are the 2-person team at Mendenhall, and so we're thrilled to have her in this new position. So that's Tammy Rankin. And also in a new position is Ms. Val Nebo. Ms. Val Nebo is also a Livermore native, also a graduate of Livermore High School. And so again, it really is a thrill to have folks come back to the community and want to give back to the community. It says a lot about the way who we are as a district and who we are as a town and who they are as people. So we're thrilled to have Val. Last year she was vice principal at Mendenhall, and she's going back to her high school roots, where she'll be a vice principal this year at Livermore High School. So Val Nebo. And so this makes up our new folks and our folks who have changed positions. And again, we're a warm welcome to them in their new spots.
I was supposed to remind you, Mr. Van Schack, that Tammy Rankin also graduated from Livermore High. Yeah. And next year, Mr. Christopher will have a little one to come up around and shake our hands. Maybe not shake our hands at that young. For our next recognition, I'll ask Mrs. Philomena Rambo, Director of Community Engagement, to come forward. We will be recognizing an incredible group of talented and skilled scholar athletes, our very own national champions for baseball.
So good evening, President Bueno and members of the board, Dr. Bowers and members of cabinet. It is my pleasure this evening to welcome and lead our recognition of our Little League Intermediate World Series champions. So why don't I invite all of our players, their coaches, team mom, and organizers to come up and stand behind me.
Well, while we're getting organized, if there's any coaches or parents that wanted to grab a picture, you're welcome to come up and get behind us. You'll probably get a better picture if you choose to.
And we'll also do a picture outside in the hall when we're done.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm just going to tell you a couple sentences about this amazing event and then and call these people by name and have them step forward so that you can see who they are. You probably know that since 2013, Livermore has been home to the Little League Intermediate World Series. We're pretty proud to get that, and we look forward to hosting it for many years to come. Teams come from all around the world to compete, and at the end of the competition, there is a champion for the United States, and that team plays the champion for the international championship. So tonight, it's my honor to lead our recognition of the 2018 Little League Intermediate World Series United States champions, student athletes from right here in Livermore. Yeah. And we're also, of course, pleased to recognize the adults who are helpful to making these students so successful, the Little League World Series organizers, team coaches, team parent as well. So organizers, and you've seen them before because you were here, they were here in the spring to help identify the bracket of play. Bill Boomrod and Kathleen Mincer, if you could wave your hands. And some of our coaches are here this evening. The coaches this year are Steve Griffith, Dan Johnston, and Mike Trudeau. And I think Chrissy McKeever holds it all together. Okay, and now it's time to meet our players. AJ Arante, want to step forward? Why don't you just take like a step forward, and then we'll go around in just a second. Jack Davis, Denny Durham, Tanner Griffith, Colin Johnston, and Ben Johnston, Drew Cardy, Nate Keeney, Jason Krakowski, Andrew McKeever, Bobby Alviar, also Carter March and Tyler Trudeau, which I think are not here this evening. Football. So there you have it, our championship team.
Once a champion, always a champion. That's cool. Yeah, that's great. We're moving to section 6, and our first item is going to be 6.1. This is the oath of office code of ethics for our new student board members.
So we'll ask Deputy Superintendent Mr. Chris Van Schack to administer the oath of office to our new student board member representatives, and joining him will be our clerk, Chuck Rogie, and our president, Craig Bueno, to make it formal and official.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bowers. And so it is once again my honor. Ladies, if you'll stand facing me, please, so we can have you on camera. So part of the process we go through when we bring new folks into office, be they student reps or adult reps, is to issue the oath of office. And so I'd ask you to raise your right hand and please repeat after me. I'm going to try to switch the microphone over to you so the TV can pick you up as well. I, in your name,
I, Avery,
I, Olivia,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
And guess what? You took the oath and now you're first up. So we'll start with Livermore High. So if Olivia La Barbera, if you go ahead and give us your report, that'd be great. Thank you both for stepping forward too.
Thank you. Good evening, Board President Bueno, members of the board, Superintendent Bowers, and Cabinet. I'm Olivia La Barbera, Student Board Representative from Livermore High School. Tonight I am pleased to report that LHS had a very successful first day of school yesterday. We were thrilled to meet the new students and faculty that are joining us this year and give them a warm welcome to Cowboy Nation. Our football team also had their first game last Friday at Golden Valley High against Golden Valley. We're also excited for the newly added CAP, which stands for Cowboy Advisory Period. CAP is a duration of time set aside for students every Wednesday to meet with their teachers and get any extra resources they might need. Students were also impressed by the amount of progress that has been made with the construction currently going on near our field. Overall, the entire campus is excited to start the new school year and can't wait to see what this year has in store. Thank you and go Cowboys.
Thank you very much. And we'll now go to Granada High School, Avery Perot.
Peralt.
Peralt.
Good evening, President Bueno, members of the board, Superintendent Bowers, and Cabinet. My name is Avery Peralt, and I'm Granada's Student Board Representative for this school year. I'm really excited to be here, so thank you for having me. Tonight, I'm pleased to report that we had a warm and exciting first day back to school. It started with the senior sunrise, where Livermore and Granada, both the seniors, got up to go see the sunrise. And although it was early, it was a good start to the year. And then we got to school, and the freshmen were obviously always in the quad looking for their classes, talking about their summers. I walked my brother in. He's a freshman. It was really fun. The teachers throughout the day addressed the new Granada standards, shortened by the acronym PRIDE, which stands for Pride, Respect, Integrity, Diversity, and Excellence. We talked about it in each class and how it pertained to each subject. The students seemed to respond pretty well, and we're interested to see how it'll play out in the coming trimesters. Also, next Friday, we'll have our Welcome Back rally, and the school-wide skit theme will be announced, which is always a big deal at Granada. The following week, the classes will choose their respective themes, and homecoming season will officially commence. We're all really excited, and I personally can't wait to see what each class chooses, especially mine. The 2018-19 school year has begun, and Granada's off to a promising start. So thank you again for having me on the board, and go Mats!
Thank you very much. Nicely done. We're moving to Section 7, our employee associations, and this is just an opportunity for leadership within our organizations, our employee organizations, to come up, give us an update on what's going on within their organization. Coming up is Livermore Education, Kate Sorrell, and also, I don't see them here tonight, but CSEA is Mamie Kristovich, SEIU is Teresa Jennings, and our confidential is Cindy Hotzenbuehler. Good evening.
Good evening, President Bueno, Superintendent Bowers, members of the Cabinet, members of the audience here and at home. My name is Kate Sorrell, and I am the president of the Livermore Education Association. I'm happy to say that the 2018-2019 school year has started out strong. District and site leaders attended the Leadership Institute on August 8th. The presentations on multiple tiered systems of support, positive behavior intervention systems, and Choose Love provided a baseline training appropriate for every site. Superintendent Bowers, the members of the school board, cabinet members, and members of the LEA executive board welcomed over 75 new certificated staff to their new home on August 13th. We had our first professional development at the kickoff on August 16th. Scarlett Lewis's speech was inspirational. She overcame a devastating personal tragedy and has created a worldwide movement to help children learn the social, emotional skills they need to build relationships and love themselves. Character education has been a part of our K-12 curriculum for many years. The Choose Love curriculum focuses on 4 key character traits and provides specific support to students, schools, parents, and members of the community. After the kickoff, different types of professional development were provided at school sites based on the needs of each site. On Friday, counselors, nurses, speech pathologists, psychologists, classroom teachers, and teachers on special assignment reported to their sites to prepare to welcome our students on Monday. I'm sure you know that it takes more than a day to create a positive physical learning environment. Yesterday was the first day of school. I can visualize elementary, middle, and high school students being welcomed into their new classrooms, reuniting with friends and starting to make new friends. The most amazing part of being an educator in our district is the promise that each new school year brings, that we will, in fact, provide our students with the skills to graduate with the skills needed to contribute and thrive in a changing world. Members of LEA are committed to providing a strong, inclusive, safe, and innovative education that will ensure that all students will succeed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With no other reps, we're going to move to Section 8, and this is our communication from the public. Communication from the public is a time for our public to comment either in writing or verbally on any item that is not on the agenda. We, the board, may listen to the comment and ask staff clarifying questions, but we will neither discuss nor take action at meeting on topics on this meeting that are not on the agenda, and this is in accordance with the Brown Act that we're governed by. If anyone would like to address a topic that is not on this evening's agenda, now would be the time to do so. And again, I reiterate the 3-minute rule. I have no beige cards, and it doesn't seem like any have come over. So we're going to go ahead and close that and move into 8B, and this is written correspondence. Formal written correspondence to this Board of Education shall be acknowledged if received by the board or in the superintendent's office by 4 p.m. the day before the meeting. Formal written correspondence received after the cutoff time will be acknowledged at the following meeting. Electronic communication received via the Livermore Valley Joint Unified School District website by accessing formal written correspondence to the Board of Education link with all fields completed and verified shall be treated as formal written correspondence. With all that being said, I would ask our clerk, Mr. Rogie, if there's any correspondence, and if so, if you'd summarize, please.
Yes, Mr. President, we have 3. The first one is from Tim Sage. Formal board correspondence received via email. Mr. Sage wrote to share concerns regarding the positioning of the solar panels at Mendon Mall Middle School. Make a note that the district administrators have met with Mr. Sage to address the concerns that were brought to the attention of the Board of Trustees. Donna Crawford, formal board correspondence received via email on behalf of the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory and the Livermore Lab Foundation. The Board of Education was invited to attend a poster presentation of 6 Livermore students that attended a 4-week internship during the summer within the Engineering Directorate of LLNL on August 9th at the Edward Teller Education Center. Sam Renault, field representative for Assemblywoman Catherine Baker. Formal board correspondence received via email. Ms. Renault invited the Board of Education to a family science night on September 13th at the Lawrence Elementary School at 6:30 p.m. This event will be hosted by the Assemblywoman Baker in partnership with Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory and Sandia National Laboratories. That ends our correspondence.
Thank you. Moving into our discussion items, I'd ask Superintendent Dr. Bowers if you'd introduce our first presenter, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll ask Mr. Bruce Wilkie, our Director of Maintenance, Operations, and Facilities, to come forward. And joining him will be Mr. Tim Bazanowski, our Bond Program Director. And they'll be presenting a combined report that will highlight summer projects in each of their respective departments.
Thank you, Board President Bueno, members of the board, Superintendent Bowers, Cabinet, and members of the audience here and at home. We'd like to summarize what we did this summer and a little bit past. I'm going to represent the maintenance, operations, and facilities projects, and mine won't be just for the summer. Since I get a chance to meet you once a year to show you what we did, some of the projects happened a little bit before the summer. So we're going to take you through some district-wide projects, and then we'll get into elementary, middle, and high school projects. So district-wide, we did some security improvements recently. There's some pictures here showing fencing. We've got Christensen, Maryland Junction, and Vineyard all have some new fencing. If you've been out to see those sites, this particular photo is of Altamont Creek. And we've made some improvements in gate hardware. This particular photo is over at Christensen, where we took the chains off of some of the exterior gates and put panic hardware on so that it functions easily to get out. We're putting cameras in many sites. Right now we have 7 network video recorders installed in sites and 25 cameras so far. We're continuing to add more cameras every month. We've done some annual certifications of our systems, critical systems. You can see this is something that's required by government agencies for making sure that our systems operate and function properly. We do fire alarm device inspections, sprinkler riser inspections, backflow devices, and many, many fire sprinklers. A lot of things you don't see that go on are underground, and there are pipes that do break occasionally, and so we fixed many of them during the past year. And whenever we get the chance, that picture in the lower left shows a shutoff valve that we add. We try to add shutoff valves for buildings whenever we can. It makes it a lot easier when pipes do break that we can just do a partial shutdown of the campus. That one photo on the lower right shows some new asphalt being put in at Junction Avenue to help keep kids from standing in the mud during the wet seasons. There were a lot of HVAC, which is heating, ventilating, air conditioning improvements that were made during the past year, all courtesy of Proposition 39. We've added, in that middle photo, Pelican thermostat, which is a wonderful device that helps us to control the temperature in the rooms, and we can monitor that remotely to see what's going on in the classrooms if there's a problem. Various HVAC units are being installed on roofs here in these photos. Oh, and I just did want to say on that last slide that at Croce we installed 5 HVAC units. Livermore High had 1, Granada had 5, and Junction had 1 in the coach's office. We did have some new electronic marquees installed here, Junction and Lawrence. And we did some flooring work in 6 rooms around the district. These particular photos show Junction in the upper and Maryland in the right. And then the point of the photo in the Mendenhall office, it's a before photo. I just wanted to show you that there's a lot of work involved in replacing a floor. It's not just changing out the carpet. We have to empty the room first, which is quite a task. And sometimes we have to do abatement and then installing the carpet and putting all the furniture back. It's quite a task. So if you want to see the after picture, you have to go over to Mendenhall. Solar power, it's been a big year for the district in solar power. We have 6 sites that are up and line and running now, and 9 more to go online this year. Yeah, the one photo in the lower left shows the solar campus at Las Positas, which SunPower, our solar contractor, was very helpful in setting up for us. And you can see in the lower right photo how they actually install these solar panels pre-made. It's quite a sight to see. Okay, and we did a lot of cleaning over the summer, and there's one of our road crews there, and just enjoying their job. The team cleaning went very well this summer, and we get up high, as you can see, and do dusting, and down low and do the floors. And I want to give a shout out to all my MOF employees, the custodians, the groundskeepers, the skilled trades workers, the office staff, facilities project managers. I have a couple of my key managers back behind me. Ross Volker and Ray Sanchez came to support me in the back. and they did a great job of leading their teams.
Thank you, Bruce. That's a kind of a tough act to follow. Can I go first next time? Yeah. A couple of projects that I wanted to share that were district-wide projects associated with the Bezra J. Bond program. We'll start with the data infrastructure project, or the 10G infrastructure project as we call it, which has been going on for a little more than a year, but is very close to being finished, which is a great success. Recall that this project replaced the fiber optics backbone across the district, replaced district office and campus computer switches, data system switches, added additional wireless capacity and access for our staff and students and employees, replaced clocks, speakers, public address systems, all with the new digital displays, and added emergency communication systems to each and every campus. At this time, all schools are complete with the exception of East Avenue Middle School, which is being worked on as we speak. But with this amount of work that we put in place over the course of the last year, a little more than $6 million worth of systems change, we're going through that break-in period right now where we're fine-tuning things and there's adjustments to be done. And so huge kudos and thanks to Jeff Warner and his instructional technology staff or information technology staff, Frank Marty and Chris Lindquist, and Marilyn Moore in his office has really stepped up and helped out in making this project such a great success. The pictures you see here on the left are, kind of spider web of data wiring, and then on the right, the new structured cable systems that are much more easily maintained and kept up for the long term. Moving forward with another large-scale district-wide project that we're working on is the Playgrounds Replacement Project. This is Altamont Creek before we started. You can see it still had the wood chip phy bar we call in there, and equipment that is aging and was in very bad need of replacement. This was one of the first campuses we started on after we completed the project, the planning process in January, you'll recall, with staff, student, district-wide planning process. We developed a very aggressive schedule for this nearly $9 million project, and it included 27 different playground boxes across the district. This next slide is the same play box with the new equipment in it. You can see that we've replaced that wood chips with rubber safety surfacing. The equipment is now fashioned in the campus mascot and colors. We have shade elements built in, and this, as well as many campuses across the district, had student and many staff participating in the equipment selection, the color selection, and the work that went into getting these playgrounds ready to be changed out. The next one then is Arroyo Seco. This is the kindergarten playground before we started. Again, with the older phy bar, the aged raised curb configuration that we had across the district in many locations, and the equipment really way beyond its useful life. Here it is replaced, new fully accessible play box, flush entry on all the way around it, so that raised curb is now gone, bright colors, campus style colors, shade elements, and it's very playful, again, fully accessible, and it's musical, as we've added to all of our elementary level playgrounds, the musical elements that were a real key feature selected by staff and students. Who doesn't like to go bang on a drum? I think we've all done it, and we've had a lot of fun doing it. And again, this project had 27 different play boxes in it. We've completed 13 since May till this past weekend. We've got 14 left to go. We're beginning the bidding process of those remaining ones now, and we'll be installing immediately through the end of this calendar year. And then each campus has some, across the campus, if you will, accessibility improvements that are required by the DSA or state permitting process, and we'll be completing those in the summer of 2019. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to Bruce to take us through some elementary campus stuff.
And I just have one slide here that shows a new portable that we recently installed at Las Positas, or Rancho Elementary School. And it was quite a feat to get this in. I have to give a lot of credit to Jan Shipley for spearheading this and making it happen in time for school to start.
And then so at elementary schools for the Measure J Bond program, one project to highlight, in addition to all of the play boxes, obviously, Jackson Elementary School field renovation project was a late project into the spring where we began the process of planning the need to replace or renovate the turf area. You can see an older photo showing that grass that is aged and in need of some tender loving care. And so this project was bid out right at the end of the year, and it includes grinding and regrading the turf, adding some soil amendments, some weed control, and some fertilizer, and then preparing to resod, or actually we're going to hydro sod is what it's called. It's sprayed in place. Here's what it looked like last week. It's all ground up, getting ready to regrade. And as with any campus where we have old equipment in place, or in this case, the fields, we discovered that the main line piping for the irrigation system was ready to be replaced as well. And so while the turf is torn up, we've gone ahead and added that to the scope. So we're replacing irrigation mainline piping, irrigation valves, irrigation control wires, as well as adding some additional stations for some areas on that play field that weren't covered previously. And so that's in the process right now. We'll be seeding that turf in about 30 days, and then it takes a month or two to grow. And we're anticipating taking the fences down at that campus in mid-October toward the 1st of November-ish. So I'm going to keep going with us, and we'll move on to middle schools. The project to highlight here is the middle school wing of the Mitchell K-8 school. It's the interim housing relocation project. You'll recall that the relocatable classrooms had been sited in various locations across the hard court, and that is where we have our new classroom building and gymnasium building planned to be constructed. And so beginning in May, we unhooked, disconnected, moved, put new foundations in, reconnected 15 relocatable classrooms to prepare for the construction of that new classroom wing and gymnasium building. Here's how it looked about a week and a half ago. The new asphalt is in. The classrooms are lined up in a connected middle school classroom wing, which will serve the campus well for that interim housing period while we're building the new permanent construction for them, and that will take them through that project quite well. This project began in May, finished just this past Saturday when the fields were reseeded with hydro seed. Back to Bruce now.
Okay, on high school, this is a recent project over at Mocho for the transition program. It recently moved, and it started late summer, so we're still working on it, but just shows that we put some flooring in here and whiteboards and had to do electrical and drainage and water lines. Just wanted to show that it takes, there's a bit involved when installing facilities. It goes on behind the walls and under the floor. And this just kind of shows that, so we're trying to wrap that one up. And then this next one is, we show on the right, replastering the pool at Livermore High. We had to do this so that we could get to a couple more years out of swimming programs before the new pool goes in. Has to be replastered. And then that over on the left, over at Del Val, we installed a kiln for them. They had a kiln that just sitting there, and they really wanted to use it, and so we found a way to make that happen in the old Del Val campus by putting it in a container and getting that wired for them, and our teacher is happy as can be about that.
Thank you. Another great project. So moving on to Measure J Bond Program high school highlights are the stadium projects that we're working on. This is Granada High School. Before we began with the old bleachers in place and the old press box, I was told before we started that when the crowd did the wave, the bleachers waved with them, and so it's a good thing that we're replacing these bleachers. We're adding a little bit more seating to the capacity of the bleachers. We're adding a larger press box with some safety features. The facility will be air conditioned for user comfort and safety, and we're adding a cover over the new deck of the press box roof for shade and sun protection for those users. Adding those safety enhancement and program features is an important thing to this particular project, and it is moving along well. This is a picture of last week where this is the home side bleachers where the framing elements are all in place. And on the first day of school, we received all of the seat boards, if you will, and walk planks, which are all aluminum, but they still call them boards. Go figure that one out. So now we're looking forward to receiving the press box in just a few weeks. And the visitors' bleachers will be shortly thereafter, paving, and then on to some home games towards the end of the season. This season for both of the high schools has been coordinated closely with the schools so that the away games are played at the early part of the season so that we can capitalize on as many home games as we can. And so certainly we're targeting the last few games of the season, and a must is to play homecoming at Granada High School. So we'll be making that happen. On to Livermore High School, which is very similar in scope, but a little larger in that we have the track expansion associated with this project. Again, the home and visitor bleachers replacement, same press box as Granada High School, expanding the track from the 6 lanes that you see here to 8 lanes, which you can imagine pushes the bleachers out into the student parking lot. And so we've created some interim parking. Adding those lanes of track has also expanded the track out into what was the backside of the sidewalk on the city right-of-way of 4th Street. And so we're very grateful to the city of Livermore for their coordination and collaboration that we've done over the past months to have them actually vacate some portions of right-of-way to allow this project to go forward. Here's the Livermore High School track expansion project. Really the same view, but down at ground level, where you can see the width on the right, kind of in the middle of the picture, is the widened area of the track. Those concrete piers that are standing up in the background are the new supports for the larger new bleachers, and project is moving ahead quite well. This coming Monday, we'll be paving that section of track, and then that paving has to cure for a number of weeks before we can put the new track surfacing on. So this Monday is a very large milestone for the project. At Livermore High School, the home bleachers will be arriving on September 10th, the press box September 28th, visitor bleachers following, parking lot paving following that, and again, working towards having the last couple of games at home and absolute working towards having October 19th homecoming at Livermore High School. So kind of a summary slide and summary thought. I thought Bruce and I talked, and I thought we'd take just kind of a minute to recap a little bit of anecdotal things that we do. School district facilities, as Bruce shared, it's hard work, and what we do often looks easy but requires a lot of effort by many. And along the way, during the course of a summer or project, we'll find things or those moments that you just can't make up, and or are very much worthy of mentioning. And so I thought I would take a minute and share a few of those gems from this summer. And the first is the bees are buzzing. When we started the Livermore High School project, we were told that, watch out for the bees over by those storage containers because there's a hive over there somewhere. We don't know whether it's in the bushes or in the container or what have you. And when we moved the containers to get them out of the way of the construction, it was more than a hive. It was multiple colonies of native bees, thousands of bees. And so the fun part of the story is that the electrical contractor's foreman for the project is a Livermore High School graduated with my youngest son, is a hobbyist beekeeper. So the next day he brought in his bee suit and he harvested these bees, and they are now living well in Modesto. And so it was just a kind of you can't make that up. You just can't make that up. The skunk might get stinky. This was the 7:15 phone call from the contractor. Hey, Tim, there's a skunk in one of the fence post holes. What should we do? You can't make that up. So after conversation, they stuck a board down into the fence post hole, tossed a few pebbles at the skunk, and skunk crawled up and meandered off into the woods and never to be seen again. But you just nothing stops the progress on a project like a skunk. No, it's not a septic tank. This was Livermore High School, where the bleacher subcontractor was excavating for footings, foundations, hit a big blob of concrete. One of the workers yelled out, "Holy," I'll let you fill in the blank, "it must be a septic tank." Well, it turns out it was not a septic tank, but it was house foundations from the 1930s and 40s. There were houses on Livermore High School before Livermore High School was a high school, when Wood Street came off of 4th Street and came into the site. Another one that you can't make up. It's better than hitting a septic tank, I will say that. The sewer must flow on. Here's a theme. Even though it was marked with an orange paint stripe on the ground, and it was actually exposed in a trench about 10 feet away, one of our contractors drilled a hole through the top of the city sewer main. Now, this is not a pipe that's dry during the summer because it's the snack shack. It is a very large sewer main that crosses Livermore High School. As many of us know, there are multiple utilities that crossed Livermore High School from the days when it was city streets and divided land. And the lucky part was that it was just the top, and so no sewer actually flowed out, but it was quite visible flowing in the large pipe. You can't make it up. Third time's a charm. This one was one of our playgrounds. And a very dedicated contractor who installed the colored safety surfacing, and it was all different colors. It was striped, and you could see what he did from morning to afternoon in different colors, and we went back and forth and tried to determine what the cause was. We thought it was bad workmanship. He claimed it was bad materials. They sent the materials out for testing, and then they determined that one of the colors of the mix of colored material was bad. So they changed that, and they put a second coat on. And it's still streaked, and we still had problems with it. And so then they sent the binder or the gluing agent out to be tested. And it came out to be not good. And so they changed binders, and it took them 3 tries, but this dedicated contractor got the third time was the charm, and it came out perfectly. We were all very concerned and sweating because this particular contractor had 3 more play boxes to do, and we weren't sure if he was going to make it in time, but he came through and worked weekends and made it happen on third time's a charm. Speaking of working weekends, cutting it close, this is one that at Jackson Avenue Elementary School, one of the play boxes that we were working on initially came in high on bids on the informal process, so we bid it in the formal process, which got a late start for us, and then that playground finished on Sunday morning with the final test, and Craig Lemos from my office was there to stand inspection, so to speak, for the final test so that it could open on Monday morning. So great stuff, great tales from the summer. And the last would be, it takes all of us. It takes an entire community. The entire team in both of our departments, in fact, all of the departments, whether it be architects, engineers, construction managers, contractors, inspectors, our state agencies have been working with us throughout all of our projects thus far, to teachers who pack in a day, and so that we can move their classrooms out and then unpack in a day so that they can get school started. Colleagues at the city offices, as I've shared, the planning department, planning commission, city council had approved that vacating of the land. Livermore Area Recreation Department, which you'll recall is partnering with us on one of the Altamont Creek playboxes. Our community, the daycare folks from LARPD and the students who have troopered through playbox-less sites for months, and so they're helping us out tremendously there. Our community and our school neighbors who support us. All summer long, I've only had 2 calls from neighbors. One was informational, just wondering, hey, what are we doing? And we talked, and they were happy that we had the information and we had sent out the flyers that we did. And then the second one was really helping us out, was, hey, just wanted you to know that your contractor's making a lot of dust and he's not taking care of his water and dust control. Not a complaint, but a help. And as we know, many of our neighbors are our eyes and ears during our process. And so it's a very great thing that we're doing here, and it takes our entire community. So with that, that's kind of the summary of the tales from the summer. And I would say thank you, and I think Bruce and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you both very much. We'll start with Mr. Wenzel.
My compliments to you both. I'm watching the whole summer and all the work that was being done. It's a lot of work coordinating. I too did not get any complaints, which, that's fantastic to hear. I think we actually went on an inspection a couple weeks at the end. It was very hot. I think you walked me through some of the campuses and saw some of the play structures. It's amazing, especially when you were talking about the instruments, the musical instruments they have now on the play structures. The one question that was brought up was when the solar panels are put in areas where the kids are playing, is there going to be anything around the cement pillars to, as the kids are running, so if they run into it, some kind of padding or hard plastic to protect the kids?
Well, it's currently not in the plan, but we can certainly add some cushioning material there as
I
needed.
think it was also a Rancho too, because that's out in the grass area. They're going to be under running around, and just
Right.
in case they're not paying attention, chasing a ball, and all of a sudden they hit that, pillar.
We'll look into that, make something
Thank you.
happen.
Hang on a second. I'll go to Kate. Okay. Thank you. Okay, Ms. White.
Well, I was just curious about the upgrades to the technology that you talked about in the first couple of slides. Is it going to be faster or more capacious, or, I mean, I'm not a techno nerd enough to know what you said actually means to everyday
and I'm
life.
not a techno nerd either, but I think the answer to both of those is quite yes, is that not only does it give us increased capacity, but also increased speed. And so as more and more students have more and more devices, we need to have what I've learned from Mr. Warner, a wider bandwidth is the term that he's taught me. And so it gives us just that added capacity to serve more students and more devices with a faster
that
speed.
came with state funding help, or?
That has some federal grant money
That has some
associated
federal
with it,
grant.
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. White. Mrs. Runyon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to commend you on a couple of things. Number one, process. I think that the buy-in from the community has been really good. I mean, obviously, the community has supported us by funding this, but working with them and developing the playgrounds, I have gotten rave reviews from people in the community about the things that were incorporated and the fact that you took the time and listened. Because I've got to say, in the past, I think playgrounds were put in, and I never heard of a buy-in process. But people really got to state their preferences. And I got to say, when we went out on tour this summer and played with some of the musical instruments that are, durable and stand up to the weather and everything, they were a lot of fun. I'm wishing I could be a pre-kindergarten kid in this district, because they're going to have a lot of fun, really. And they got a lot of years of going on those play structures, and I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate the work that you took to make sure that underlayment is right, because it's not just an aesthetic issue, it's a safety issue. I think it's a much better system than the tan bark that we've had in the past. I did hear one complaint about the siting of some of the solar, and I understand that everything that we do has trade-offs. And I have to say, I really appreciated when I went to the health fair over at Junction and was able to park under the parking structure on what was a pretty warm day. It really provides a nice shade for the cars in the places where we have it over parking lots. So I think it's doing kind of double duty for us. And I know that we've cited as many as we can for campuses that didn't have shade structure for students for lunch and recess and those things, that there are places with shade. And I really appreciate the efforts that went into that. And I know we changed configurations a couple of times to accommodate underground things that were found, but really worked on that siting. And so again, I think that process was just excellent. I think staff took the time to communicate both with us and the public. And then when things were found that required a change, went ahead and did it. Really excellent. And I know that all those new HVAC systems and the repairs to the roofs are going to be really important. When the weather's hot, we've got to have that air conditioning, or people can't really pay attention. It's really hard when you're sweltering to pay attention to your schoolwork, and the things that were leaking that you got fixed. And I know that you had some projects thrown at you very last minute. The beams over at Rancho, right, where you had to was it Croce? Sorry, an emergency contract, and well done. You guys have been really responsive. Both departments, I think, have done just an excellent job in being responsive to what had to be done and what the community wants and needs were, and sorting out the difference between those things. And I know that it's going to be some time without all the facilities up. The high school students are going to have to wait, but when we get it done, it's going to be so great for the rest of your time at school. You're going to really appreciate it, and your younger siblings are going to really benefit. So well done. And really, I appreciate the process. I appreciate the time you took communicating with us and then taking input both from us as a board and from the community in terms of what was going to work, and working hard on making the best solution for everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Runyon. Mr. Rogie?
Yeah, I'd like to echo that sentiment. I've been monitoring not monitoring, but I've been curious about all the construction going on, so I stop by occasionally and see how things are going, especially at Livermore. Under the electronic marquees, how many did we replace under Prop 39?
Boy, I think it was around a dozen or so.
A dozen?
Yeah.
The schools that had just bought some newer signs prior to that, did we reuse those or send them off to other schools, or did we just throw them out? Because some schools like Rancho had a new sign, a manual sign put in prior to that, so were those reused?
First, just a point of clarification. So it wasn't Prop 39 money, it was actually bond money that was used for electronic marquees. Schools that had fundraised initially for some of the signs, we replaced them because most of them had aged out. And in the case of Rancho, we were able to, they have a secondary drop-off spot where families go, where they don't always come onto this busy street here. So we put one of the former marquees that were from another school site that was new, I guess, over there, so that, because a lot of people, it's how they communicate with what's going on. And if you don't drive on East Jack London and you drop off elsewhere, you wouldn't see that. So I think at Sunset, we're also doing something similar. So there's an alternative drop-off and pick-up places. So we're going to be using some of those signs and repurposing them.
Great. Smart idea. The you brought up the playground issue that had to be redone 3 times. Is everything warranted, or do we get warranties with these kind of things like playground structures and signs and things?
Absolutely, we do. Typically, we require the contractors to have a 2-year warranty on anything that has labor associated with it. Most of the equipment has 10 to 15-year warranty on finishes or defects or things like that, the physical equipment, and then the surfacing has typically a 10-year warranty on it.
Thank you. Good to know. And then the high school, are any of the projects, I'm more curious about the high school ones, are any of them behind, or are they all on time for completion? We got any glitches?
Like most construction projects in the Bay Area, and in fact across the country at the present time, things are so busy and there's so much work. Everybody is pushing to get their projects done, and many are slightly delayed. And so to a little bit, yeah, but we adjust to where we can. We resequence work to make up time, things of that nature. We're confident in both of the stadiums that we're going to make the dates that we had promised when we began.
Great. And just one little comment on the solar panels. I noticed during the hot days how the cars tend to cluster underneath those solar panels, which is kind of, yeah, of course, it makes sense. But I also happened to notice as the sun moved that those cars moved also. So people were aware that the sun was going to be here at 10 o'clock and over here at 2 o'clock, so the cars magically moved. So I guess that's a good thing. Keep the cars cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rogie. Just a question. It's great work you guys are doing. I haven't had a chance to tour all the sites and stuff. But you know what? The information you guys have given out and reading through it, and just at a couple of sites that I've been to, just the folks that are walking around, just kind of creates a kind of a buzz. You know, when you're seeing a lot of good things happen, you know, especially at the big high schools. So, a question on the solar. Do we have a number just so folks know? I know we had how many we had planned, but how many are up and running? And how many do we plan on having up and running?
We have 6 that are operational, making money for us now, and 9 more to come online in the next couple of months. So a total of 15.
That's great. And do we have any idea? I know it's going to be partial because it's partially implemented and they're all different sizes. But just to reiterate what our monetary gain looks like, at least what it was projected to be the first year of full operation, because that might be an easy number to have.
So for the first series, phase 1, it was approximately $800,000 of savings realized. And even though there are more projects in the second one, they're not as large.
Correct.
So it was comparable, was about 600,000? Or
so the second phase was much smaller in size because the biggest one was obviously Granada High School, and so that was our biggest one. But I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I'm thinking it was something like $250,000 per year that we would save once those are online.
That's
and the $800,000 will be once a full year of savings.
Full year. That's outstanding. Mm-hmm. Relative to our savings, I would imagine that there's some type of a correlation between the operability or the efficiency of the panels. And one thing you notice over here on the west side of town, because a lot of construction going on in Isabel and things, is that there's a lot of construction dust in the air. And when you look at those photovoltaic panels, they're dirty. And I don't know if we have to do any kind of study or anything, but is it advantageous to us to maintain those so that we maximize savings?
Absolutely. And since this is a power purchase agreement with SunPower, they too want to make sure that those panels stay clean. So they come out and clean them. I think it's twice a year. And so they monitor. They have someone that sits in their office and looks at the efficiency of the panels remotely, and they have a vested interest in making sure they stay clean also. And they come out and clean them.
Okay. Just in terms of on the monitoring side, I'm just wondering, the more efficient they are, the more we buy from them. But the less efficient they are, the more we have to buy from PG&E. That be correct? I'm just wondering if it's also in our interest if there's to me they look disproportionately dirty. They're probably maybe, I don't know if it's twice a year. I don't know if it's in our advantage to have them clean maybe more often than not, especially during the summer when those type of panels are making all the money for the district.
There is a requirement in the contract that we have a certain amount of savings. So if they don't meet up to that amount,
it's on them.
Then they still have to give us the money. So
okay.
They do have an incentive to keep them clean.
All right, thanks. And Mr. Rogie mentioned something about delays, and I noticed 'cause I actually did get a couple of calls on the delay. I guess there were some large components on the stadium projects that was delayed due to a manufacturing problem in Texas or something, and it's like a 1 week delay. And the reason we know is because it affected the student athletes' home schedules. And I'm just wondering if there's going to be any effort to try to mitigate or make up that 1 week delay.
Certainly, as I shared, we're working diligently to adjust or resequence scheduling activities. Yes, the bleacher materials are 1 week later than we had originally anticipated. Mostly, again, for the shortage of labor from Texas. We had conversations where, many of they actually shared that, well, we lost a bunch of workers. They went to California to make more money. I should have put that on the you can't make this up, huh? But we're working to try and diligently get to as many home games as we can. There was one home game at Granada in particular scheduled for September 21st, where we met. I met with campus administrators last week, and it was more than the bleachers piece. There was paving that wasn't going to be done, and some other pieces that, again, all contractors are extremely busy, and the dates for some of this work is locked in months and months ahead of time. And so, to the degree that we can, we will. But that one game on the 21st is looking like they actually were interested in or preferred to move it away if they were able to. We haven't gotten back together yet to see if they have been able to move it away, or we're continuing to try to accelerate things to be done in time to do that.
Right, but I think it's also important to put it in perspective, which is the most important thing that the students and staff had expressed in community was that we wanted to have our graduations held on our campuses. Right. And so that became a higher priority than one football game that was not the Granada Livermore game and not homecoming. And so there's always going to be a trade-off. And if our students did not want to graduate at the rival high school, they didn't want to graduate at the fairgrounds, they didn't want to graduate at the college, they wanted to graduate on our campuses. So that was an absolute deadline that we literally started as soon as Safe and Sober grad night was over. And so the commitment we made, and I made verbally to the sites, was that we would do everything we could to at least have one set of the stadium stands up and accessible by homecoming, and definitely for the Livermore Granada game at whichever campus. Anything beyond that was going to be gravy. Now, our preference was that homecoming would be later. It used to be closer to November. Granada came in with a pretty early homecoming game for a variety of reasons about competition level and all that, and excitement. So, but we're still very committed to it, but we have to look at the big picture about what we accomplished. And so it's inconvenient to move one game. You're not going to get the home feel, or you may not get the home gate, but that's just 1 year in the many, many years of a solid stadium. So we're working hard on it, but we also don't want to pay tremendous amounts of extra money for one game.
Correct. Thanks. Anyone else? Good. Thank you very much. That's good work.
You have fans in the audience, I see. For our next item, I'll ask Mrs. Susan Kinder, our Assistant Superintendent, to present the 45-day budget revision for 2018-2019. This is information only.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Superintendent Bowers. So tonight we bring the 45-day budget revision. This is an opportunity for us to adjust our budget to match the state enacted budget. The governor signed the budget on June 27th. The main differences were in revenues, and the two main revenue sources were the local control funding formula, and it was the cost of living adjustment that changed, and the one-time discretionary funds. So the local control funding formula at May revise was projected to be a 2.71% COLA that was augmented to 3%. Once we heard that the governor was in session with the legislature and they came to a compromise, it was estimated that that was then going to be a 2.71 COLA augmented to 3.48, and that's what we used in our adopted budget. But once the actual state budget came out, it actually ended up being a little bit better. It's 2.71% augmented to 3.7. And the reason that I keep saying it's augmented is because the local control funding formula is based on this 3.7% COLA, but all other, like the special ed funding, is only getting the 2.71% COLA. So that's why I still mention that. I know it doesn't seem fair. On the one-time discretionary funds, the May revise was fairly large. It was $244 per ADA. That's average daily attendance. When the compromise came about, what they had compromised is that the ongoing funds would go up, but the one-time monies would go down. So we were using $168 at our budget adoption. When the state actually finished their budget, it ended up being $184 per ADA, so that's a little bit better. So what does that look like? So our projected revenues at 45-day revise are $145,780,555. Our projected expenditures are $147,755,686. A transfer in of $611,000, and that's a change to the ending fund balance of $683,825. We estimate our beginning balance at a little over $5.5 million, leaving us with a ending fund balance of a little over $4.8 million. And how does that compare to the adopted budget? So we have this spreadsheet. If you look at what we projected our ending fund balance to be at adoption, it was like $4.6 million. So we are increasing our ending fund balance by $244,498. So again, the difference is the two revenue sources that I just mentioned. The LCFF was an increase of almost $250,000. The one-time discretionary funds was an increase of a little over $191,000. And then we did have to increase a couple of our expenditure lines. One was we had a webinar on the election from the Registrar of Voters office, and they tell us that we need to project a $3.50 per registered voter cost. And when we adopted the budget, we only had $80,000 budgeted, which was closer to $1.50 per registered voter. And that was because our last board election was only $1.50 per voter. So we needed to increase our election expense budget by $107,000. And hopefully they're being very conservative and that the cost will not be that high, but we need to make sure that we have enough money. And then you heard that we had this lovely bond project where we increased our bandwidth. Well, one of the things that comes along with that is that you have annual licensing fees, and so that has to be paid for from the general fund. And so we increased our budget by a little over $89,000 for that. So an increase in revenue of $440,635 and an increase of expenses of $196,142 was a positive change to the fund balance of $244,493. So the next steps, so this is not a official budget because the official one will come out at first interim. And we always do our monthly budget updates anyway. So we'll continue to monitor the budget. This is still very early. We haven't had a chance to see what our actual enrollment will be. We're still using projections, and HR has been putting in all our new hires. They're still doing it this week. So once we have everything in the system, we will then be able to adjust our budget to actuals. And then we will be bringing the unaudited actuals from last year of 17-18 will be presented to you at the next board meeting on September 4th. So that concludes my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Rogie.
You might have mentioned it, and I might have missed it, but has there been any revision for the CalPERS PERS withholding? Has it gone up, stayed the same?
Now, that has remained the same as what we had projected. I can't tell you what the amount is off the top of my head.
So the projections have remained the same, but those have increased, right? So it's an escalating cost, but the projection of it hasn't changed.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move into Section 10. These are discussion action items.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next, we'll ask Ms. Kim McNeely, our bond program administrator, to come forward. She'll be presenting the state funding consultant contract for board consideration and approval.
Thank you, Superintendent Bowers and Cabinet. I'm pleased to be here this evening to present an update on the state bond funds and our district's eligibility for those funds. Staff is also seeking approval, as you're aware, for the contract for a state funding consultant as we talk this evening. So I thought I'd start us off with a little bit of background. The funding that our district is seeking is part of the Proposition 51 funds, and I've shown on this slide in the green sort of outline box the pots of money that are potentially available to us through the state bonds. Tonight we're going to talk about two of those funding sources, the new construction funding and the modernization funding. But we are actively working on career technical education funding as well, and I believe that will be presented in the future. So you may recall that we did a presentation, the bond department did a presentation in December of 2017 on our eligibility for state funds, and we provided information at that time really specific to modernization funds. This information that's in front of you this evening is actually based on June data, and we received drawdown information as of today that indicates that new construction eligibility funding is completely expended out of Proposition 51 funds at this point. So those funds are not available to us, but I think there's still some interesting information in this analysis that the board should be aware of. So the estimated funding date originally for these funds was the end of August. They have been drawing down more quickly, and in fact, they were expended about 3 weeks ago. Since December of 2017, though, we have done an assessment of the new construction eligibility for our district, and we have approximately $36 million in K-12 eligibility for growth funds. While there isn't a current funding source, I think there is an expectation that there will be future bond funds. And so I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. We do have significant eligibility for new construction funding, and staff will continue to monitor and pursue that. The other recent good news is that the State Allocation Board decided that they are going to continue an unfunded list. There was a great deal of discussion about whether or not that was going to proceed forward. Certainly, Office of Public School Construction staff was recommending against, but there was a significant outpouring of district protest for that move, and as of now, the State Allocation Board will continue to provide unfunded lists for districts to get on. So I think it's good news for us. If not in the moment, then certainly hopeful news for the future for us in new construction funding. I also wanted to just provide an update on the modernization funding, which we have talked with you before about. Again, this is June data, which hasn't really changed significantly based on the most recent drawdown analysis. It looks like there still remains about $900 million in modernization eligibility funding, and that provides a significant source of potential funds to augment our Measure J bond funds. Again, looking at the drawdown for this, they're predicting that this will last through the fall of 2019. So there is an opportunity for us to submit modernization applications and have reasonable belief that those will be funded through the summer of next year, which is really good news because we have many eligible projects, and I'll talk about those a little bit more on the next slide. So our current eligibility analysis indicates that the district has state eligibility for modernization projects of approximately $30 million. An initial round of application analysis that we are working on now and are concluding indicates that for current projects that we are working on in Measure J, we have applications in excess of $20 million that we can file for with the state, which is really, really great news. Our goal, of course, is to submit on every project that is eligible to maximize our state funding, but even an initial wave or first round of funding that would allow a $20 million plus application process, I think is really great news, and hopefully will let us leverage our bond dollars. So the next steps for us are school facility consultants is the consultant we're recommending this evening. They have done previous district analysis, and they will and their prior work will allow us to continue to move forward with our applications. There is ongoing conversation with state analysts that indicate they believe the drawdown will continue to escalate as we reach the end of those funds. So although we're optimistic about summer of 2019 application timeline, we want to get in line as quickly as we possibly can. I think the board is aware those applications are processed first come, first serve. So the quicker we can get in the process and the pipeline, the better off we are. We will continue to finalize the scope for our applications. We are looking to bundle projects and see if we can leverage some of the early work. We are going to be able to go backward to some degree, and we're continuing to analyze to see how far back we can go to potentially pick up work as old as 2 years ago and leverage that into current applications. There is a state agency approval process that's prerequisite to state funding approvals. That includes California Department of Education and Division of State Architect applications. So we're actively trying to move our CDE, our California Department of Education applications forward so that we're getting every obstacle out of the way so we can get in line as quickly as possible. We are going to need to confirm our match requirement. In our case, this isn't an issue as we are Measure J bond funded, but recall these are 60-40 match programs for modernization. So that's 60% state money, 40% district money, and we will be required as a district to certify that we have those funds available. The great news is through the generosity of our community, we have Measure J bond funds, and the projects that we are submitting on are in fact eligible projects with those monies. We will then move into submission of those Prop 51 applications. Again, I think it's a great opportunity to leverage our local bond funds, and we will continue to keep you all updated as we move through that process with the progress and how we are doing. There are various steps along the way that will require board action, and we'll be giving you advance notice of those and keeping you in the loop. That concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you very much. We'll begin with Mrs. Runyon.
Thank you. I appreciated the presentation. I'm very much in favor. I think anytime that there's matching money available, we need to do whatever we can to put ourselves in a position to get that match. And a little frustrated with the governor and his unwillingness to float the bonds after people voted to have them done. But whatever is available, we want to get in line, and having someone who specializes in getting your paperwork in line is important. So I'm very much in favor of that. We can either reduce the bonds that we issue ourselves, or we can do additional projects. And being good stewards of the community's money, it's important to do whatever we can.
Thank you, Ms. Runyon. Mrs. White?
So your proposal is to continue on with the consultant we have now and sort of a parallel process to have a request for other folks to be considered?
Yes, that's correct. Because of the time sensitivity of this process, we wanted to keep moving forward while we were going through that process, and this seemed the best way to approach the work.
So this is, we would have this person complete a certain task or for a time frame? I mean, the school facilities consultants.
Correct. The way that they bill is on a time and materials basis, so they're only billing us for the work that they're processing. Our assessment of the current work and what we want to start with is getting our Department of Ed approvals in line. Those timelines can be upwards of 2 to 3 months to get through, so we envision the first work that we will do with them is to get all of our applications for CDE in order so that we can run parallel with our currently operating Division of State Architect approvals.
But then we would put out concomitantly a request for proposal from other such consultants, and we would do a evaluation.
Correct, absolutely.
And that would be several months down the road.
I have the request
You
proposal.
hope for the first of the year. I don't know what.
I hope sooner than that, frankly. Our request for proposal, a draft is in my office now. Our hope is to get that out on the street in the next couple of weeks and hopefully be back with you as soon as possible to actually award the contract for the full scope.
Okay, thank you.
That's a good move. Thank you very much. We have no further questions. Thank you.
So we need to make a motion.
Yes.
I move that we carry on, continue with the plan to continue our work with school facilities consultants, meanwhile putting out a request for proposal to have others to evaluate.
Second.
We have a motion by Mrs. White, seconded by Mr. Rogie. Any discussion on the motion? Ask clerk to call the roll, please.
Yes, Mrs. Runyon?
Aye.
Mr. Wenzel?
Aye.
Mrs. White?
Aye.
Myself, aye. President Bueno.
Aye. That motion carries 5-0. Thank you very much. I think we're moving into our consent items, section 11. Anyone wish to remove or discuss further any of them? I'd entertain a motion then.
Mr. President, I'll move that we approve consent items 11.1 through 11.16.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Rogie, seconded by Mrs. Runyon. Any discussion on that? Call the roll, please.
Yes, myself, aye. Mr. Wenzel?
Aye.
Mrs. Runyon?
Aye.
Mrs. White?
Aye.
President Bueno.
Aye. That carries 5-0. Thank you. Our consent resos, I don't believe any of us are precluded, so I think we have 7 items.
Mr. President, I move resolutions 2 through 8, 2018-19.
About 1.
One's not on there.
Yes, just starts at 2.
Oh, all right.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Mrs. Runyon. It's been seconded by Mr. Wenzel. No further discussion. Clerk, if you'd call it, please.
Yes, myself, aye. Mrs. White?
Aye.
Mr. Wenzel?
Aye.
Mrs. Runyon?
Aye.
President Bueno.
Aye. That motion carries 5-0. Now, what do we have here? These are some separate ones. Oh, this is the June 26th meeting, and I think Mr. Rogie and Mr. Wenzel, you have to abstain. It's on absence. So,
Mr. President, I move the meeting minutes of June 26th,
Yes.
13-2.
I'll second that. And just a reminder, this was a meeting you weren't able to come to, that's all. Correct, yeah. So just if you do need to abstain, so if you'd call the roll, please.
I was here.
Actually, what happened at that particular meeting, we had a closed session and Mr. Wenzel left, and then you felt ill that night. So after you took one
that's right.
vote
I'm
and then
sorry.
left.
Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
You were here
I'm
for
sorry.
one vote.
It's been a while.
Yeah. All right.
We're all in
And
agreement.
we didn't make you ill. You were feeling unwell.
Oh, I don't know. I think I did.
So we have a motion, Bueno, second, Runyon, and the clerk, you call the roll, please.
Yes, Mr. Wenzel? Mrs. White?
Aye.
Mrs. Runyon?
Aye.
Myself abstain, and President Bueno.
Aye. And that carries 3-0 with the 2 abstentions as noted. Thank you all very much. Board member reports. We'll start with Mrs. White this evening.
Yes, I went to a really outstanding CSBA leadership workshop in downtown San Francisco. It was 20 steps from the BART station. It was slick. There were four work sessions which one could go to. One was about, I chose not to go to the Girls Who Code one because we have Girls Who Code prevalent in the Valley, sponsored by the lab predominantly. The topic of another panel was STEM education, and it's interesting. We seem to focus on STEM education in the classroom. The folks who were speaking to the group were talking about STEM education as a career opportunity, and that's not generally how we do it. Not to say one is better or worse, just different. I went to another session about math placement. You know, we recently have a state law that says that math placement must, for 9th grade, must be transparent and obvious and clear and et cetera, et cetera. And there was an extensive presentation by really good people with a lot of information. And the slides there were 80 slides. I will forward the slide deck. I will not copy that slides. But that also came with what board members should be aware of. So I've asked for a couple of copies of pages, a couple of pages to be copied for each of you to know what our responsibilities are in that area. Fascinating was the session on safety. Matt Balzerini, who is now a San Francisco fireman, is in Mountain House. And he brought this to everybody's attention. And the point is, in this day and age, there are more active shooters on campus than there are fires. So, when the fire alarm rings, do we really want our children out on the playground? We just don't have fires, but is that where we want them when there is a fire drill? And his point was, practice, practice, practice. You can write it on paper, but if you don't practice so that everybody knows his role, what was it worth? And there was also a commentary from about the adults at the school that has a threatening situation, because some adults will throw in the towel and say, I'm not doing this anymore, and you replace them with adults that weren't there. So it becomes two sets of adults, those who endured the situation and those who didn't endure the situation. And everybody, even adults, continue to need counseling. I also went to 2 graduations, the Daja District Attorney's Justice Academy graduation time. There's about a dozen of our students go and participate in this. And they have sessions during the latter part of the school year and then spend some of their summer hours working in offices, mostly of cities and states, cities and counties, and district representatives, legislators. And they come together, 3 or 4 of them together, to make a graduation speech. And they're on all manner of topics of civic responsibility, from no means no to abortion. And it's just a real positive experience, and our students always do really well. I also went to the lab bioengineering internship table talks that we read the invitation to, and our students shine every time. I went to the health fair, and I should to say thank you to the Food for Thought folks who provided tasty plums and pluots and nectarines and peaches. Really yummy, sweet. And the dentist, Deanna Aronoff, who came and gave exams for the students. And mostly you'd think a dentist and a patient, and that's all. In this case, there was dental patient, the chair in the dental van, the mom holding the sibling in arms, and several other young'uns around, and the mom and the dentist trying to talk. So it's a really special gift that the dentists do when they screen our kids. And John Muir Hospital sent a van, and they were doing adult screenings for blood pressure and diabetes. And I think that's just about all. Did we do anything else? It was a fruitful summer. And I will hand the material from the CSBA leadership activity over to Mr. Greer so that we can think about doing those things.
Thank you, Mrs. White. Mr. Wenzel.
Yes, my apologies on the 26th. I had to miss the meeting, but then I got to go to my daughter's orientation at UNR. And as exciting as that is, it's a little sad around the Wenzel house. As tomorrow, we're driving her up there and getting her situated. So I'm pretty excited about that and proud, and it'll be probably a little teary-eyed on the way home with the wife, but we'll get through it. Worked on the backpack project with my church, and there were 10 churches involved. I drove to approximately 30 homes in Livermore, and it was really, I wish my kids would have went with me. It was really exciting, the kids lighting up. And I even get chills right now. There was one family, and the little daughter got the bag, and they're living a tough life. And she turns to her mom, and it was this aqua color bag, and probably about 6 years old. And she gets this bag, and she's eyes like Christmas, and then she turns and goes, Mom, they listened to me. This is my favorite color. I mean, it was just luck. This is my favorite color. And it's like, oh, you lose it. And it's like, oh my God. So this was a great event. So like I said, I wish my children would have gone with me and done it. So next year, my son was going to go with me. Collecting donations for the Welcome Back event. I have got to say thank you to all the people that donated. I have to shout out to the McGrail Winery family for making their donations. Also to Scott Seafood for the donations they made. We went out and did some inspections at some of the schools. The school member, Chuck Rogie and I, and then we also went out a second time with Deputy Superintendent. We saw some things and we talked about it, so hopefully it'll make a difference. Next Monday we'll be at Arroyo Seco School with the police department, and we've organized another kind of handing out of juice bars to start out the year, 700 students, and special ice creams for the teachers, and they can organize themselves with the peanuts and all that issue, but the kids only get juice bars. So it's a nice event to get the police department together. They come out and bring out patches and things to give out to the kids. And another shout out, congratulations to District 57. I thought that was exciting watching it on TV. The intermediate baseball team, first time that I'm aware of, looking at it, that they won the United States National Championship. So kudos to them. And someone threw out the first pitch. I don't know who that was, but so it was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wenzel. Ms. Runyon.
Well, I have a few people I want to recognize as well. We had a kickoff last week at Cornerstone Community Church, and man, what a nice facility. So nice of them to donate that. And even though it seemed like there was a lot of traffic, I actually set a timer and did my meditation for 10 minutes, and there wasn't a car left when my 10-minute meditation was done. So it wasn't that bad, sitting in the parking lot. I really appreciated touring over the summer and seeing the work that was ongoing and having explanations of why. Some of the things I learned when we do demolition, the materials that are demolished are often part of the bid, that the vendor gets to collect and recycle metals and things like that. And, it's just another way to reduce costs in the community. So I love going out and doing those things and learning those things. Thanks, Tim. And I wanted to thank some people. The health fair was amazing, and that's something I'm not sure I've been to before. We have so many things that go on over the summer. People think there's nothing going on in schools in the summer, and you just have really no idea. But the American Legion was there, and I think it was a Pleasanton chapter of the American Legion that came over, and I think that was arranged by somebody in Campus Catering. Campus Catering was there. And student services, I gotta give a shout out to Mr. Vernoy. I saw something on social media, a complaint about something that I thought that he could easily handle, and I got a response from the person saying, "Hey, Mr. Vernoy called me and took care of that problem," and I really appreciate that. And it's one of the things I really appreciate about this community and our staff is, we can't know everything, but when we know about something, people take action, and that's what you want. When a problem's pointed out, people go out of their way, make sure we're going to handle it, because that's what our job is and that's what we do. And other people I saw at the health fair, besides one that Mrs. White mentioned, were the people from Migrant Ed and other parts of student services, really there, getting to know the families, welcoming them. The backpacks that the American Legion were handing out were slamming. I wish I'd gotten one of them. They were the best looking backpacks I'd seen. I was really, really envious, actually. So it's really great when the community pulls together to support the families in that way. And I know the nurses were chasing down students who were in need of immunizations. Adults were getting screenings. Kids were getting those dental screenings, and those were volunteers. And really appreciate all the hard work that went into that, because we've taken that before school. Most of those activities now don't have to be done during the school year. The kids show up day one ready to work, and I think that's really important. So I'll be really interested in hearing what we have on day 14 in terms of students, and hopefully it's not going to change a lot, that we're not having people optionally extending their vacation into the school year, that people are showing up. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Runyon. Mr. Rogie.
Well, it was also towards the end of the summer. It was pretty exciting. Did go to the kickoff again. I'd like to thank Cornerstone. They did an excellent job. All the cheerleaders and the mascots that were out in front greeting everybody. It was well done, very well done. I'd like to have just kind of sat there and watched a movie too at some point, but it was well done. I attended the lab internship awards, the poster awards out at the visitor center. My expectation was blown away. These kids did an awesome job. I wasn't quite sure what it was all going to be about, but to watch their projects, have them tell us what they were doing. There were three different groups, and they all did different projects under the auspices of a scientist or of somebody from the lab. And this is, I believe, a four-week internship. But the stuff that they were doing was really, really high tech, and I think they started to really appreciate the technology that the lab is producing and being willing to share with students and further their education. The cherry on top was they all got $2,000 scholarships, which nobody expected, and neither did they. So that was a pretty awesome end to that. Also did a walk around, as Mr. Wenzel said, we walked around schools. We found some anomalies I'm sure they'll be taken care of, but I was impressed with Granada. It was pristine. I'm pretty critical on maintenance, but boy, was that school clean and painted, and I was impressed. I was also jealous. We walked around Del Val, LHS, Rancho, Livermore. I had the schools that I'm assigned to. I went around the first day of school and found just to ask how things were going, and there were no problems. Maryland Junction, Vineyard, and Jackson. Nobody had, well, Vineyard doesn't have any traffic problems, but nobody had traffic problems. Everything seemed to be up and running. And at Maryland, the door was finished that morning that they had a problem with, and everybody was well scrubbed and happy, and I made my day go really well. Also was shared this morning with a parent about Croce staff. A little boy, second grader or first grader, was attending Croce for the first time and was scared. He had separation issues. He got lost. The staff grabbed him, found him, put him together with a fourth grader to make sure he got from class to class, and mom was just ecstatic in how well the staff reacted to their son. So kudos to Croce staff. Tomorrow I'll be attending the ROP meeting, and that's it for me.
Thank you, Mr. Rogie. I too was able to go to the Livermore National Laboratories internship day, and I think there was 6 interns there that were from our district and surrounding. I think one of the girls had been relocated. Pretty impressive. I mean, these kids are doing some things about manual switches that can operate in Venus and prototypes and acidity in the atmosphere and stuff. And it's pretty impressive. So, and then for them to give those kids a couple $1,000 scholarships for their education, that's just pretty remarkable. So it's great to have those kind of partnerships, and I know those things don't come easy because they take nurturing and a lot of foundation work by a lot of the partners within this district to form those, and I know Mrs. Rambo does a lot of that on our external side, so that's a big benefit of having someone in that position to be able to cultivate and maintain those relationships, so truly appreciate that. And I was also able to go to the kickoff, which I'm not a big parade person, if someone couldn't tell, but this is and I'm not into the whole cheer kind of thing. But all that being said, it's a pretty spectacular event, and it's amazing how positive this thing is. And then when you bring in someone like Scarlett Lewis, who's sought after to speak all over the country, if not internationally, and she picks Livermore. Then the whole play on things, choose love, and she chose us. So pretty remarkable program. I talked with her a little bit, had the opportunity to talk with her a little bit off the side, and just when you see someone like that with that type of program, that type of attitude, bringing that type of positivity after something so tragic in your own personal life, on top of struggles, being a single mom and things like that, but just a pretty remarkable little boy she had, 6 years old, and then you see what's come of it. I think it's 55 countries and all 50 states are adopting program that our teachers are going to be able to share in classrooms with our students. So pretty remarkable. So I think this is going to be of just a great year. I've only been on this board now 4 years, but I've been fortunate to volunteer as a coach in this district for about 19 years now. And of the years I've been here, just the scuttlebutt, just the vibe, this seems to be it's almost escalating. I mean, we're not even to the crescendo, and it's really, really positive. So I appreciate all the work that everyone's been putting into it, all the front load, and getting things ready and ramped up. So thank you.
So I was the one that threw the first pitch, in case you were wondering. Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot to share, and I don't want to repeat everything, but a couple of highlights. As was mentioned earlier by Kate Sorrell, the union president, we did have over 180 LVJUSD teachers and administrators, board members, and union leaders participate in our Leadership Institute. And so Dr. Kevin Greer and his staff planned an amazing institute. It was designed to communicate and reinforce all of our district-wide initiatives that are at the core of improving learning for our students, including building the foundation of the multi-tiered systems of support and strengthening our sense of team. And the team time was particularly valuable for our site leadership teams as they planned for the whole year. And so heading into the year, we will keep that momentum and that focus on our academic mission and the commitment to all students. The Institute was just one piece of our professional development in the summer. We also had textbook adoption training and curriculum. We had report card work. Many people think that teachers disappear in the summer. They actually are not assigned to a classroom, but they're learning all summer long, and that our district is preparing for that year with them. But of course, the back-to-school kickoff was a huge success. We had close to 1,200 folks come together to reunite and reignite our passion and our enthusiasm for the school year. The other thing that was really special was having Scarlett Lewis there, and as for those people who haven't had a chance, we had a student video. So Connor Sweeney, one of our students, created a video that featured our own students talking about the 4 pillars of what goes into choosing love. And that's gratitude, forgiveness, compassion in action, and who knows? Courage. And of course, courage is where it all starts. You have to have courage and be brave in order to take risks and to try all of the others. It wasn't quite a test, but we got it. So, but basically what happened with Scarlett was she strongly believed that nobody is born with hatred or anger, but that people learn that over the course of their life because of different experiences and times. But she also believes if people can learn to hate, then people can learn to love. And so it is a scientific-based research program that shows how we can build resiliency, children first to learn to love themselves, and then to learn and embrace others. And with that, combined with all of our safety and security points that we saw earlier from our facilities and bond folks, we know that our schools will be safe, our community will be solid and strong and be able to withstand anything. So we're very excited about the school year. We've received a lot of very positive feedback about Scarlett being here, but what's more exciting to me is that it isn't just a school mission. It's something that we're embracing with our entire community. Scarlett was invited to a special, we had a special luncheon last Friday following the kickoff, and she also was at the Bankhead for free with a packed house to share with the community support. So our parents will also have a role in supporting and resiliency in our students and building their social, emotional, and coping skills. And then we met with dignitaries and civic leaders and government leaders on Friday, and they too will have that role. So we will be hearing more about it as the year goes on, but we know that our students and our community are going to be better because of it. A couple of other exciting things. We were featured in the supplement for Innovation Tri-Valley. So Tri-Valley Rising is part of Innovation Tri-Valley's efforts to highlight everything that's in our Tri-Valley, and certainly the quality of schools is a big draw. But we are featured in 2 different sections of this supplement because of our Boomerang project for our LVJUSD young alumni. These are alumni that come back and they go into internships just like the one with the lab and with other of our tech and engineering companies. So that's a project we're piloting, and hopefully it'll go region-wide. And then our upcoming Dreammakers and Risk Taker Awards. And this is where our students who are problem solvers and want to contribute and make the world better will be recognized in very wonderful ways for their contributions. And as always, I wanted to end with a little special quote about the school year. And this is my favorite one. Though no one can go back and make a brand new start, anyone can start from now and make a brand new ending. And that's really the beauty of a school year. In many jobs, you just kind of go year after year and over, but with our school year, having a defined end and start, we actually get to reflect on our past successes, and we get to look at where we need to improve. We get to set goals, look at outcomes, and then start afresh. So we've pledged to each other a renewed commitment, a focus, and an energy to ensure our students will graduate with skills needed to contribute and thrive in a changing world. When we started off yesterday, all of our schools, we were present in all of our schools, and we had such a warm, welcoming feeling. It wasn't quite as exciting as the solar eclipse, but in some ways that was okay because it was just very comforting and not nerve-wracking for our students. What was another special moment was our police department had officers on most of our elementary and middle school campuses in K-8 to also welcome students back and to make sure that everybody felt very comfortable. So we feel very supported. We know it's a new beginning, and we're looking forward to a very productive and memorable year. Thank you.
Thank you. And with no further business, we will adjourn at 9:03.